Alright everybody, so welcome back, and this is gonna be kind of explanatory video where I will be explaining the things and all, and this is how we will be just simply going ahead. And when it comes to explaining the things, just a minute, let me even share the, I hope this is how it's gonna be going on. Yeah, this is fine, just a sec, give me a moment, and then I'm gonna be done with this. So this thing is almost done, right? Alright, let's even close this, and let me make sure whether I'm live right now or not. And as for this thing, I will be sharing the entire screen, so this is how it's gonna be done. I hope you can see my screen right now, and even I have to just get some of the things done too. Alright, chats, I'm not gonna be turning them on. Unfortunately, this is how things are gonna be going on. But okay, one more thing, there was like a GitHub related thing I had to just get done, but okay, that thing is gonna be done later. For now, I'm gonna be going with this much only, like a GitHub related. Okay, so what we are gonna be doing, first of all, of course I was talking about this particular code earlier. So this middleware simply resolves the error. So if I actually show you the error, this is the error that you get. Non-serializable value was detected in action in the path register value. Register this take a look at the logic dispatched action persist register rehydrate and type persist okay, all these things are gonna be here. But ultimately what is happening, that serialization related error you are getting, and for that thing you are just gonna be making it false, like you will be making a serializable check false, so that it doesn't throw you that check error to you, and that's it. This is the use of this particular middleware. And then as for the dev tools, simply gives you the access of dev related stuff, dev tools related stuff, and that is it, nothing else. So apart from this particular thing, here we have something called user only filter, not even user only filter. We have persist config. The thing is that we are gonna be persisting the data, so that even if we close the window or reload the page, the data remains the same if it has been changed. For that particular thing, I have a persisted reducer over here. For persisted reducer, I'm gonna be using persist reducer that actually comes from the Redux persist that I have already installed. And persist reducer will be taking the persist config. This is the persist config. The key is user storage. This simply specifies the storage. So there are two things, local session storage or the storage. So I'm just simply storing the values in the storage, so that they are accessible even if the browser is closed. Whitelist in the sense, I'm gonna be taking care of the user. Ultimately user related information is going to be saved. So the things inside the user, they are gonna be kind of stored. And after that I have transformed. This transform mainly kind of tells that these are the values that you actually have to store. So if we talk about the transform, so it you just save user only filter. This is the filter that it has, and save user only filter simply creates a filter, and that filter says that okay, first of all, user is the object that you have to kind of store in the storage, and inside the user there's gonna be user object. So inside the user there's user key, and the value of the user key is something that needs to be stored, and that's it. So this is actually it is doing over here. So I can say first one is the user object, and the second one is the key inside a user, just like this. So this should be easy to understand in this way. And that's it. I have the storage, I have the filter. So whitelist is the user is going to be stored, but at the end of the day I'm simply transforming it as well. Like I'm creating a filter, and I'm just simply storing the user inside user, so user related information only, and that's being stored. And for that thing I'm using create filter method, and that is actually coming from Redux persist transform filter. Again, for this particular thing you need to download it as well. And once all these things are done, that's it. You will be getting your persisted reducer, and that's what persisted reducer you are using over here. So you could have used reducers directly, then you could have used a root reducer, but as you are persisting the data, so you are using persisted reducer. The data will be coming like in the that is the reducer that's gonna be used over here. That simply means you will be getting the persisted data. and then you are exporting persister from here, and persister is the first of all you get the persister stored, of course, from Redux toolkit. redux persist. So from redux persist you get this persistor store, and once you got the persistor store, you are just simply using your current store, that means this particular store I'm talking about, and then you are just simply exporting it from here. What is the benefit of it? You are exporting the persistor store, that simply means there's high possibility, I'm not sure about it, but there is the possibility of it being used in the provider that I'm using of this redux toolkit, but let's see whether it's actually gonna be used or not. But that could be the main reason behind exporting it from here, but let's see, in future everything's gonna be clear. So this much, this was it about it, and I think let's add some comments here. Creating a persisted reducer because user is persisted. The story is gonna, most of the things are like kind of understandable, so I don't even need to do anything. This is how it should be, just enough to understand. And when it comes to slices, so slices, they have the name, so the user is the name, initial state they have, and they have some of the methods I can say, and they have the like logout method, and logout does this particular stuff, and then they can have many more. And what I'm doing actually, I'm just simply, I can call them methods, I can call them actions, and all those actions are being exported from here, and then I'm exporting the reducer as well, the user reducer that I have. So that's it, this is how the things are actually being done here. And when it comes to using them, so if you want to use the actions, so for using the actions you will have to use the use dispatch, and once you are using dispatch, then you can just simply call that particular action, and that particular action will be triggered. And when it comes to getting the values from the reducer, redux store ultimately, and for that thing you will be using use selected, you will be getting the state, and state.user will be getting the information about the user. This is one of the first ways. And over here you are just simply gonna be getting the user related information. If you wanna dig deeper into it, so you can even get the user inside the user. But first of all, let's see what all values we are gonna be getting here. So reload the page, I'm getting nothing here right now, mainly because if I go to redux right here, and I'm gonna be skipping the stuff from here just like this, so that I'm actually able to see the things. If I come back here, and right now I'm getting the information, and right now Vipendra is there. And if I actually just a sec, if I go to redux right now, and if I don't skip them right now, if I just skip the rehydrated, then that particular option is going to be gone, like it's gonna be empty, mainly because once I have removed the values, and that is why it is being shown as empty over here. I hope I will be able to even remove the cache, there must be that option, but can't really see that right now. But what is actually stop it, this should be fine. I reload the page, it is started again, and once it is started again, so I will not be getting any value, right? Yeah, I cannot. Then reset it, I hope. Okay, right now it's gonna be fine. No way, it's not gonna be fine. User is empty. By default, user has these values. It has the Vipendra name, and after that persist. I'm persisting the data. When I'm actually persisting the data, at that time just user value is being persisted, and rehydrated is gonna be true. And when persist rehydrate, at that time it's kind of the same. So I'm not really okay. I'm getting some difference. So persist is right now rehydrated is false, and in this particular case, rehydrated actually becomes true. Wow, many things are actually new for me over here. These are the things that I'm knowing for the first time. So it's okay, let's see how it's gonna be going on. And there is this jump skip, I get it. If I click on skip, this will be skipped, and if I click on this will be skipped as well. That simply means persist is gonna be undefined. That simply means I will have my data in the user over here, so user will exist over here. So if I just simply go to console, I'm getting the user information, because that hasn't been persisted in the sense because I removed the values, right? So it hasn't been persisted, that is why it is being shown over here. If it were persisted, then because I removed the values, that means these values would have been missing here. Alrighty, so this much is that I've done. Apart from this particular thing, if I don't skip them, that simply means they are gonna be gone. That means I will not see all those values here. And what's wrong with this? Okay, that's gone now. Log monitor. So what it is actually showing, by default I'm gonna be having these values, inside the user. I will have my state. Inside the state I will have the user object. Inside the user object I will have state is error and another user object. That user object will actually contain the information. Then persist will happen at that time. When actually persist happens, then all these values are still gonna be there, but two things are gonna be persisted and rehydrated is gonna be false. Okay, then action to again understanding this stuff. User is actually becomes null. So whenever okay, so ultimately what happens over here, that first of all there was this state, and once this state init state was here, initially I had this particular state, then data got persisted, so I still had those states. Then there was an action. When that action got called, ultimately logout action got called, and because of that thing the user actually became null. And right now if you just have a look at the payload inside the user, that actually becomes null, and when that becomes null, nothing is inside the user right now. And then at the end rehydrate happens, and when the rehydrate happens, at that time you will not be seeing anything inside the user, and that is why there is nothing inside the user, as simple as that, because I just simply logged out. Even if I sync it again, it's still gonna be the same. Revert commit, can I revert it? Reset, what all options do I have here? Wow, there is a state, there is a, then inside the state there is user. Inside the user there is a state, status, error, and user. Inside the user I have ID, name, and all these things. This is quite interesting, like you are able to see the stuff like this. Nothing could be better than this. What else am I gonna be having here? I have this log. Okay, fine. Can I get out of this? I can, but I will have to close this like this. How about this? What is this? State. It just simply giving me the same thing, right? I can just simply click on this. I'm not able to click on this. That simply means, okay, I'm not able to click on this because at the end of the day there is no state, so that's fine. And RTK query. Good to explore all these things. It's not the worst thing ever, and it's not the hardest thing ever. Okay, this is just simply UI part. We can just simply understand this stuff and all, and we can continue learning. Okay, by the way, this should be enough, especially about this particular section, about this Redux toolkit. And I'm gonna be getting my state over here. The thing is that the user is gonna be null because I have deleted that one, so that is why that's null right now. And that's quite understandable. And apart from this particular thing, right now I'm just simply gonna be removing this button from here. This was just for the testing purpose, exactly how it's used. And I can just simply remove this particular thing from here. And here you are getting the state directly. State in the sense you will be getting the user inside the user. So let's even check this particular thing. If I use this part, like this one, then what will I be getting inside the user? So let's even check this thing out. I'm gonna be just simply reloading the page, and it turns out I will not be getting anything. Reload the page. It's still gonna be empty. For actually getting the data over here, I will have to just simply skip the kind of persisting stuff, and once I have skipped that, then I will be getting the information here. And yeah, that's gonna be user. Inside the user there's gonna be another user containing the user information. Simple. And apart from this particular thing, selector unknown return different result when called with the same parameters. This is linked to unnecessary render selector that returns a new reference should be memoized. Okay, something needs to be memoized, or something is just simply returning the same data over and over. We will be talking about that, or maybe it's gonna be resolved automatically as we just go ahead. Alrighty, so this has been quite good actually. It's not the hard, it's not been the worst thing. Rather, I actually ended up learning many things. Initially it's been quite a bit hard, actually a bit tricky, but now slowly getting the idea exactly how it's used, and nothing could be better than that. Apart from this particular thing, if you actually go through the documentation, they have mentioned everything here, that when it comes to using the Redux toolkit, at that time you have to install all these things. They are not installing a React persist because of course they are not persisting the data. But if you were persisting the data, you would be installing one more that I have done on my side. Then they are just simply creating the store. They have the reducer over here. Once they have created the store, one more thing. Just a sec. I'm gonna be going through the document like definitions of all these things. So if I can do that, can I close this? yeah, this is how it's gonna be done. Let me go through the definitions of all these words related to Redux toolkit, so that we know about the theory related stuff too. But before that, I will have to actually just look for that, so just give me a moment and then I'm gonna be back. Come on, yaar. Don't I have a good internet connectivity? I should be having, right? Okay. Here we are. I am gonna be mainly going through the Redux right now. Here we are. And okay, when it comes to Redux, so it is no doubt a state management library for JavaScript apps. Redux is a built for larger, more complex applications. Redux toolkit is the official recommendation of writing Redux code. So Redux toolkit that we actually installed, that is the official recommendation for writing Redux toolkit. Understanding. So there are a few things over here. First one is gonna be store. A centralized store holds the whole state tree of your application. So the store that we actually created over here, so I'm merely talking about this particular store. It actually holds everything over here. So it holds all the reducers and all. So it is kind of the central part of the whole system. So a centralized store holds the whole state tree of your application. Then there are reducers. Yeah, you are creating a slice. After creating the slice, you are actually exporting the reducer from there. So reducers functions that take the current state and an action as argument and return a new state result. In other words, state action new state. So mainly inside the slice, I have these reducers over here. These reducers I'm talking about. So these reducers are just like a function. They take the state, they take the action. Inside the action there are some stuff. Mainly inside the action, what you get inside the action, mainly there are two things. Inside the action there is type and there is payload. So again, I don't have the action over here, but if I had, so action would be actions would be kind of looking like this, if I'm not wrong. So action or actions, I'm not even sure, but yeah, you can just simply go through the documentation and it can be clear. I mean, it can be even clearer, but ultimately you get two options over here, and it simply just kind of creates a new state, changes the state, modifies it, and that's it. And that's what we are actually doing over here. State.status is gonna be null, error is gonna be null, and the user related information, they are actually gonna be not null but empty at the end of the day. Okay, so this is what the reducer is. So when it comes to the definition of the reducer, first one is store. A centralized store holds the whole state tree of your application. So the state that you are creating, the central store will just simply hold the whole state tree ultimately. And then reducers are functions that take the current state and an action as an argument and return a new state. In other words, state action and new state. So ultimately it can take the action as well, just like this. So it can take the action, it will have the state, and it will just simply be creating the new state on the basis of that. Okay, then we have something called action. It is a plain JavaScript object that has a field like event. So it has two fields, mainly type and the payload. Slice, a collection of Redux reducer logic and actions for a single for sync together in a single file. What is a slice? Collection of Redux reducer. So slice is nothing but a collection of Redux reducer logic and action. So look, that's this thing. When it comes to this store, so it will just contain everything. So it references to the whole tree that is actually being created. But apart from this particular thing, you will have to have some methods over here, right? You will have to have some state over here. For that particular thing, you will have the slice over here. So it's kind of understandable that your store will use the reducers, but for those reducers you will have to create the slice. So you are initially actually creating the slice. Once those slices are created, you are actually exporting two things from here. You are exporting the actions, again whatever actions you just create over here, and you are exporting the reducer. So once the slice is created, what is the slice all about? Slice is will contain mainly three things. Slice will contain your name, kind of the name of the slice that you have, then initial state, exactly what is gonna be the initial state of the data, so it will contain that, and lastly it will have some reducers. Reducer in the sense these are gonna be the actions that it will be using. So quite kind of understandable if there is a state manager or a state manager here ultimately. So state manager should have initial state, it should be able to change that, it is able to change that, and that's it. You don't really need to worry about it. Then you have a store. That store is taking care of all the reducers that you are creating, and that's fine. Here from here you are actually exporting the reducer, and you are actually just keeping the reducers over here. So user is gonna be user reducer. This is the first one that you got. Similarly, you can get many, and then at the end of the day, you are just simply creating the store. And once the whole store is created, then in the app.js, what you are doing actually, not inside the app.js, rather inside the main.jsx. So over here, this is the provider that you are actually getting from React Redux, and you are giving this store to this. So store knows your provider is given the store. Store knows about reducers. Reducers has the initial state as well as the actions, and that's it. The job is done. Now if you want to use them, in order to use them, what you will be doing, if you actually want to use, in that case, you will just simply be getting the selectors like this. So use selector means it will give you the values of the initial data. So initial state that you will have, so it will just simply give you the state that you already have saved, and using use selector you can just simply get the state. Again, if you are returning the whole thing, that simply means you are returning the whole state from here, and from the state you are just simply getting the user. State may contain many things. State may contain many things in the sense, for that thing you will have to actually check out the state, that you are actually just simply returning the whole state. So you will have to check the state out over here, exactly what all you have inside your state. So let's even check the state thing. If I just directly return the whole state, that simply means it will contain more than one thing. So I'm gonna be checking that thing out too, and that's it. Once you got your state, and if you wanna use some methods, kind of log out actions I'm talking about, for that thing you can use dispatch. If I actually, just a sec, if I go here and apart from, okay, I will be going through that state related stuff, exactly what it contains. But before that, there's gonna be store, there are gonna be actions, there's gonna be a reducer, then that's it. Actions are gonna be contained in this. Creating reducer, Redux toolkit automatically generate action creators. So action creators, functions that create an action object. So state and action, update state, that's fine. Provider, the provider component makes the Redux store available to any nested components that need to access the Redux store. That's right. So the provider component makes the Redux store available. So whenever, because provider takes the store, right? So it makes your store available, and once you have the store available, that simply means you can access its state as well. Dispatching action, triggering a state change. The use dispatch hook allows you to send or dispatch an action. Send or dispatch an action to the Redux store by giving action as an argument to the dispatch variable. Yeah. And the use selector hooks allows you to extract the data or the state from the Redux store using selector function. Okay, this is how the things are actually going on. So ultimately, what is actually, let me even share the front end part. So ultimately the browser screen, and over here when it comes to use dispatch, it is mainly used for using the actions and all. Use selector will be used for getting the data stuff and all, and that's it. You don't really need to worry about anything else after that. Having said that, I just wanted to check one thing over here, and that's gonna be local host 5173, and I'm logging the state over here. So that's what I wanted to check, the values of the state. So inside this state you are getting the user, inside this state you are getting the persist. You are getting this persist because of course you are persisting the data. If you are not persisting the data, you would not be getting this stuff over here. Interesting. The thing is that if I actually go here inside the store, and because I'm persisting the data, I'm getting that. If I don't persist the data, if I just directly use the root reducer over here, will I still be getting the same thing? Let's reload the page and check this thing out, and turns out I'm not getting the same thing again. I'm just simply getting my user related information because the data is not actually being persisted. If I were persisting the data, I would be getting some information related to persist over here. Because I'm not using that, I'm not using that in the sense I'm not using persisted reducer, and that is why I'm not getting information. If I were using that like this and reload the page, and now I'm getting this persist over here, it just simply gives me that rehydrated is gonna be true, version is gonna be -1. And turns out I do need to know more about it. But the good thing is that we learned about Redux toolkit. We know how to use that. We learned about persisting, like how we can actually persist the state. And even if you close the browser, even if you reload the page, that store is going to be persisted. And over here, when you are actually defining the storage, not only that, you can have something called storage session. Again, there are two options. Either you can have the storage session or you can have the storage. Storage means even if you close the browser, the storage will remain. Storage session in the sense the session will end as soon as you just close the browser. But for getting that, like storage, I'm getting like this. I hope the same way I will be able to get a storage session if I'm not wrong. I have no idea exactly how am I gonna be getting it, but let's see. Redux persist slash redux persist. Am I gonna be getting session somewhere? I think that should be inside storage session. This is the one, but I should be getting it inside lib. So let's check this thing out. Get storage. First of all, I will get my storage. That's what I've got over here, and then after that I should be getting the storage session. So this is the thing that I was talking about. So you can have it too if I'm not wrong. Again, am I 100% guarantee sure about it? No, I'm but one thing is clear, as I'm getting this storage session, so this does the same thing. The teacher just discussed it briefly, so I got the idea that this is how the things are done, but ultimately I will be checking about this. Let's do one thing. Let's check about talk about this thing using ChatGPT. So I'm gonna be back here. Tell me about this. Sure, this is used to in Redux persist to store your Redux state in browser session storage instead of local storage. Yeah, there are two things. Either you can store the data locally in the local storage, or you can actually store the data in the sessions, right? Session storage. And this uses the session because of course this is storage session, and the storage that we use first that actually uses the local storage. What is storage session means? Redux persist lib storage means persist Redux state in storage session. Difference local storage versus this local storage Redux lib storage data state saved. That's what I was saying. Go through it well. Data state saved even after browser is closed. Data stage until user manually clears it. Best for logging tokens, theme settings, and language settings and all. Session storage Redux persist lib storage session data stage saved only when while the tab or browser is open. If you close the browser tab, data is deleted automatically. Best for temporary login session, OTP flow, and all these things. And that's what I've been talking about so far. Don't you think so? Alrighty, that's amazing. So we've gone through it quite well. Never actually thought that I will be able to understand it this well. Seriously. When I actually started it, it was like, oh my god, what is this? Now, okay, I got it what it is. Interesting. So far we have actually done these many things. Mainly the main focus has been on this particular side, front end side, and most of the things are kind of done. So let's do one thing. ls get come on, get status. I'm gonna be just adding everything, and let's just simply add everything. Get status. Everything is added right now. And what will I actually be saying over here? That git commit m add redux toolkit redux toolkit to the front end. As simple as that. Let's simply add it. Git status. Everything seems to be well, and if I just go one step back right now, cd even go to the main dir. What's a clone. Inside this I have backend and all, and git status. I will not be getting the error. Git push, I should be able to just simply push it, and it is pushed. Git remote v. If you wanna just clone it, you can just simply clone it from here. That is github.com unstoppable the coder what's a clone.git. So yeah, you can just simply clone the repository from here. Of course it is not done yet, but the thing is that the goal was to give it 5 hours. We have already given it 5 hours. Now 5 more hours are gonna be given tomorrow, and probably within 10 days it will be done. If it is not done, it will be taking 12 to 13 days. Who cares? But ultimately it will be done very soon. Okay, so that should be it for now. Apart from this particular thing, right now it's mainly time to go through the WebRTC section that I was just explaining yesterday, and then it was too much. Not too much actually, but kind of wow, so many people are here. Interesting. Never expected, but okay, let's simply close this and let's go through the WebRTC section. WebRTC section in the sense how the WebRTC stuff works and all. For that thing I will have to open that, and projects WebRTC. This is the code. I kind of went through it quite a lot yesterday too, and I have to first of all explain all the things well properly from the beginning till the end, and once all the things are actually explained, then I have to rebuild this on my own. So it will actually not get over, rather that's just gonna be the starting of it. But before even that, I have to just get the explaining part done, right? So let's go ahead. And what is the next thing that I need to do? Where was I yesterday? This constant.js file, I explained everything yesterday, so I'm not gonna be going through those things again and again. Okay, so talking about the things that I covered yesterday, like I have been explaining many things yesterday. So connections got done, rooms got done, not gonna be talking about them again. App express server got created an HTTP server. Okay, I have some routes. This particular route simply renders the index.html file. Okay, apart from this particular thing, these are the two routes. One is gonna be for creating the room, another one is gonna be for destroying the room. So this is even understandable. Then I actually created a WebSocket server over here. That WebSocket server directly uses a server. That simply means it is running on the same local host, same host and same port. Having said that, you could have provided the path as well. I did not. Yesterday I mentioned I even did that. Then you may be getting some, once the connection is actually ready, this particular thing will be triggered. Ultimately this event will be triggered, and when it gets triggered, so you are gonna be getting your WebSocket. Not only WebSocket, you will be getting the request. Inside the request you can just send some query parameters, and for getting those query parameters you can use a extract user ID function. How it's actually done, let me show you that. Inside the request, first of all, when it comes to getting the query parameters, right? So query, if you wanna get the query params, from the request of the WebRTC, so not even WebRTC, I'm talking about WebSocket over here. So if you are using WebSocket and you send some query parameters, sending some query parameters in the sense, suppose like this. So if your URL was like HTTP, and if you are actually using WebSocket, so your URL is actually gonna be like this. So WS / localhost 8080 slash, and the user ID suppose you sent, right, 1234. This is the query parameter that you actually send. Now what you can do, if you want to get the this query parameter inside the WebSocket, so you are getting the request, and after that what you will have to do, first of all you will get the request.url. This request.url will give you the whole URL. After that you will be splitting this URL, so you can split this URL using this question mark. So just let's simply split this. So you can just split it like this. Once it is splitted, then you will be getting an array that will contain two things. In the 0th index you will be having this part. In the first index you will be having this part. So I'm gonna need the first index part, ultimately value of the first index, and that's what I am doing. That's why I'm doing it here. Now I have user ID 1234, and in order to get the query parameters from here, there is a class or something. I'm not yeah, I think there is definitely, this is the class. So new URL search params, this is the class if I'm not wrong that you get, and inside this you can just simply give it the values. It will just simply be giving you the query params. What I've done over here, request.url gives me the URL, then split, I splitted that, then I got the first value of the first index. That means I got user.1234 over here. That simply means if you just remove the whole thing from here, so you actually have this much inside this, that's it. And then new URL search parameters, this is again interface defines utility methods to work with the query string of your URL. That's okay. So this is how you will be getting your query parameters. And after that, if you want to get the user ID, so user ID is gonna be query params.get, and I'm gonna be getting the user ID. This is how you can just simply get the user ID. And that's the same thing that's actually happening inside this extract user ID. So if you actually have a look at this particular function over here, so that's the same you are doing over here. So query param, URL search parameters and all, and you are converting your query parameter as a number. So that's fine, right? So it should be understandable. So ultimately you are getting your user ID, and you are just simply adding the connection. So connection contains two things, WebSocket as well as the user ID. The benefit is that using user ID you will be able to find the WebSocket connection, and once you have the WebSocket connection you will be able to send the data to that particular user, as simple as that. And then yesterday we talked a lot about this handle disconnection. The thing is that once the server side, like WebSocket server, and you have WebSocket client, both of them are connected. Now if the client side, if you reload the page or if you close the browser, at that time this close event will be triggered, and when this is triggered, so you already have the user ID. So whoever user was there, whoever reloaded the page, you already have the user ID of that particular user. That simply means you can remove that particular user from your server side. But what all you need to do, you have connections, you have room, user room. Okay, if you, of course you will be removing the connection because user left or reloaded the page, so you will be removing the connection. Not only that, after removing the connection, first of all you will have to check whether user actually joined any room or not. If user joined a room, you will have to even remove that particular room. don't remove that room, rather remove the user from that room, because that the user does not exist anymore. So these are the things that we need to just handle everything inside handle disconnection, and we already discussed about all these things in detail yesterday. So what am I doing? First of all, I'm getting the using the connection index. Again, I had the user ID. Using the user ID, I found the connection index. Then I'm gonna be just simply removing the connection index if that does exist. So I'm just simply using splice to just simply remove that, and just simply giving it some logging some values to just understand the stuff. Lastly, if the user actually joined any room, so first of all, I'm even checking whether the user actually joined any room or not. If the user did join the room, that's okay, I will be removing the user from the room. If the user did not join the room, if not a user room, then okay, I can say user is not part of any room. But if the user is part of some room, so I will be going through all the rooms. So I'm just simply going through all the rooms. I'm getting the room over here, and then I will be checking if the user is already part of the room. That means there's gonna be other user as well. If you are the part of the room, then there's gonna be another user too. And if the other user exists, and one more thing, if there's only one user and if it left the room, if there are two users, this is again a good question. Look, in a room there can be two users. If two users were there, one user left the room, there's only one user right now. So that is fine. Ultimately, you will be removing that particular user from the room. But if there is only one user and that user left the room, so first of all, you will be checking whether the room exists or not. But room will definitely exist because that joined the user, that user joined the room. So other user ID will be actually null because there was only one user, another user ID was null by default. So this other user will be null. That simply means first of all you will check whether the other user exists, and at that time it will be null, and because of that thing this party will never run. As simple as that. So other user is gonna be how like there are gonna be two users, especially when it comes to the room. So inside a room you have two things. You have peer 1 and you have peer 2. So room.peer1 is gonna be equals to user ID. That means if peer 1 is the user who left, that means the another user, that means peer 2 is gonna be the other user. Ultimately there can be two users. So if you are the first user, then another user that is remaining, that's gonna be definitely other user. So this is how I'm getting the ID of the other user. As soon as I got that, I'm even creating the notification message. Label is gonna be of course server process. Type is gonna be notify disconnection, because of course I'm just sending a disconnection message from here. Why am I sending disconnection? You left the room, but other users should be notified, and that is why I'm sending it. Okay, but if the other user ID exists, only then I can send it. If the other user ID is null, then what is the use of doing it? And that is how I'm doing it. And once I have the other user ID, then using the other user ID, if it exists, then I can find the WebSocket connection. Using the WebSocket connection, I can just simply send this message from here. And once I've sent this message, and apart from this particular thing, I can even check that if room.peer1 exists, if the user who left the room was peer 1, then I will be making it null. If the user who left the room was peer 2, I will be making it null. And if none of the user exists, if both of them do not exist, in that case what will I do? In that case, I will be removing that room. Even if there is one user in a room, you don't have to remove the room. But if there are no users, remove the room. And that's what I'm doing over both the users, peer 1 and peer 2, they are equals to null or not. If they are equals to null, I'm finding the index of the room, and then I'm simply splicing it, ultimately removing it. And that's what I'm actually doing it inside handle disconnection. And it should be understandable, right? It is not that much hard. Quite what if you just go through it once or twice, you'll be able to understand. Okay, so handle disconnection is done. Lastly, we have handle message. What kind of handle message we will be getting? Okay, inside the handle message, first of all, there are going to be two things. Inside the handle message, you will be getting the data, and that data will contain two things. That data will contain the label, the data will contain the data itself. So let me even show that. So inside handle message, over here I am, and what you are, first of all, you will be just of course parsing the message, because that is in the JSON format. So you are just simply parsing that. Once that is passed, so inside the message you will have two things. Inside the message you will have your label, inside the message you will have the data. When it comes to label, so there can be two types of labels. There can be normal server process in the sense when WebRTC is not being used over there, that is the normal server process. So even if you are using WebSocket, even if you are using normal HTTP server, all those things are gonna be inside a normal server process. Again, I discussed all these things in detail yesterday, and that's why I have types here. Okay, who is calling me? Chalo. Hello. Oh. अब क्या बताएं भाई, जाना पड़ेगा फिर लेने. First of all, my mom came to me and she said I have to go somewhere. Drop me there. Now she's asking me, pick me from there. Pick me up from there. So I'll have to go there again. But I was talking about this right now. Where is that? Labels. There are two types of labels over here. Normal server process, that simply contains the normal server process related stuff. WebRTC process simply contains the code related to WebRTC. Right now, of course, we are dealing with WebSocket, that is of course normal server process. So that's what I'm talking that's why it's been mentioned over here. The message that I'm actually getting, if that is a normal server process, then handle normal server process related stuff and give it the data. If that is a WebRTC related process, then create another function WebRTC server processing and give it the data, and if that is null, then don't do anything. But this is the most important thing, all the code related to normal server process will be handled by this particular function. All the code related to WebRTC will be handled from this particular function. How will I get whether it belongs to normal process or WebRTC? I will be sending this label with the data that I send from the client side. So client side data, client side message will actually contain the label that okay, I belong to normal process or I belong to WebRTC. So that is easy for me to just configure the things. It's easy for me to just keep the things separated, and that's it. If it is so, then that's gonna be the best thing. What else? So I'm gonna be talking about right now normal server processing, and after that I'm gonna be talking about WebRTC server processing, and this is how things are gonna be done. But before even that, bro, I'll have to go and pick my mom up from a place. As simple as that, and then we will start talking about this. Okay, whenever I'm talking about a normal server process, that simply means I will be joining the room. Okay, I can exit the room as well, and that's it. If that is a normal server process, the room is already created using HTTP server. Now once the room is created, either you will be joining the room using WebSocket server process, using WebSocket, or you will be exiting the room. If you are joining the room, why we are using WebSocket? Because we have to notify the other user. So it's gonna, WebSockets are bi-directional, so that is why we are using it. Exit a room handler, I'm gonna be exiting the room. So if I exit the room, other users should be notified that okay, a user left the room that you are in. So that is why we are using WebSockets over here. The code of this is gonna be again pretty simple. Like, it's actually easy, honestly. So we will be going through it, and this is how we are gonna be getting the things done. But for that thing, I'm gonna be back very soon. But until then, take care. See you.